The importance of knowing who you are and knowing your identity is beyond significant. I don't believe you will have a fulfilled life if you don't know who you truly are. I don't believe you can fulfill purpose or destiny, especially the God-given innate destiny for your life, if you don't know who you truly are. For a lot of people in my journey, in my life's path, whatever's the common thing, oh, I'm going to do that too. Or whatever I think is going to make me excel or push me forward, oh, I'm going to do that. Or whatever's going to please my mom or dad, or I'm going to do that. What I realized probably sometime after graduate school, because I enrolled into law school here at Villanova, and I did my first year, and I realized this is absolutely not what I wanted to do. I left school after doing my internship that summer and moved all the way to California. And being all the way in California is where I was able to breathe, to just sit back and think about what it is that I wanted to do in my life. I took the time to just explore options, travel, debrief, rebuild. And the interesting thing is, by the time I got done with all of that, I came back to Philadelphia, and within a year or so after being back, I got married and I had my children. And so in that whole process, that's what my truest heart desire was anyway. But I needed to go through all of that untangling and release all of that other garbage that was placed on me by other people to be able to say, this is in fact what I want. This is in fact who I want to be. This is in fact what I'm pursuing. Challenges of 2020 were many. Dealing with my family, losses within my family, many, very close ones. Dealing with children that were very excited to be in kindergarten inside of a building, and then a month later home, virtual learning. Dealing with the stress of what it meant for my husband and his job, dealing with vaccines and viruses, and all of that was just a lot. Never mind the fact that there's injustice going on in our communities, in our nation. There are children being pulled away from their families at the border. There are children that we are now finding out that have been trafficked and been in sex scandals their whole lives. Like, it was just so much that was going on in 2020 that I had to withdraw from a little bit and pull into myself and say, God, what is this? What's going on? How can I navigate through it for myself, navigate through it for my children and my family? But then my heart was aching for these children that didn't have parents with them to help them deal with what was going on in our society and our nation. And I just went before God and I said, what can I do? What should I do? And I, of course, got instructions for what to do with my family, what to do with my children, my home. But I wasn't at peace still. So I was like, God, there has to be something more. And I put out a Facebook post. And I said, does anybody else feel bothered about the fact that these children are being separated from their families? Does anybody else feel bothered that parents are willingly giving their children to an industry and that is abusing them and tearing them apart and mistreating them? Does anybody else have an issue or problem with that? And close to 237 comments later, people were like, oh, I didn't really think about that. Or, yeah, you're absolutely right. Or, well, what about this injustice and that injustice? And I said, there has to be something else. And so the next day, I made another post and I said, look, I'm just gonna go into prayer over these issues. If anybody wants to join me, send me a message, tag onto this message, and let me know if you wanna pray about some of this stuff. The response when I gave a solution was overwhelming. It turned into me then creating an organization, which is Covering Our Children, Inc., And I started connecting families and children to resources, mental health resources, social service resources, housing resources. Any possible thing that people were throwing at me, I was finding a way to give them a resource or connect it to somebody who could better service them. And as a part of my identity, I have a very strong faith in God. And I believe that there's things you can do in the natural sense, giving of your money to charity, and then things that you can do in the spiritual sense that sort of counteract the issue or the problem or whatever burden you're facing on both ends. Our Black history has shaped my identity in that my grandmother and my great-grandmother and my great-great-grandmother were all praying women. Faith was something that was passed on generation after generation after generation. And to me, that's significant in who I am. It's significant in our culture when we have been stripped of so much. We've been stripped of privileges here. We've been stripped of opportunities here. We've been stripped of so much that when the rubber hits the road, what is the one thing that we can never be stripped of? And that's our relationship with God. And so to me, Black history is understanding my history and understanding my genealogy and the generations before me. And when I look back at that, and when I look at how they navigated through their persecutions, they navigated through pressing to do better, to be better, the foundation of all of that was having a relationship with God. The foundation of all of that was taking that relationship with God and allowing that to be the encouragement, the inspiration that you needed to propel forward, to make the hard choices, to reach for education, to go after the job that people said you couldn't have, to out of nowhere become an author because of a burden that was laid on your heart. And that's how I see Black history. It's everything that was done before me to allow me to be in the place that I am now.